Hi, I'm Alessia, and you're about to watch a message that was preached at Calvary Fellowship in Miramar, Florida. At Calvary, we exist to help you take your next step with God. If you'd like to learn more about Calvary, make sure to download our mobile app on the App Store or Google Play Store by searching up My Calvary.
How's everybody doing? Hey, we are glad that you're here at Calvary this morning. We have an awesome service planned for you. We have Dr. Frank Turek in the house today, so you should be excited about that. Now, if I can tell you, let me just give you a little, should have had this ready. Okay, here we go. Let me give you the back of the baseball card if I can to tell you the stats. And I know that people don't really collect baseball cards anymore, but so you can remember way back when. So here is, sorry, I think I just deleted it. Hold on. Wow. Okay, recently deleted. Here we go. There it is. Wow. I was born in the era of a rotary phone, so that's, I'm still working this. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Turek. Listen, Frank is a blessing to the church because he has this gift of taking very difficult questions and giving a succinct answer. And so let me give you some stats, is that he's written 4 books, including Stealing from God, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, Correct, Not Politically Correct, and Legislating Morality. He's appeared on hundreds of radio programs. He's appeared on a bunch of TV programs, including Hannity, Faith Under Fire, O'Reilly Factor, and Politically Incorrect. He hosts an hour-long TV show called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, which you can watch if you have DirecTV. He has a radio program called Cross-Examined, which is on 186 channels every Saturday morning. You can also download, right now, you can download the free app, the Cross-Examined app, which you can get tons of content on there. That's all free. Now, I would recommend, this is my recommendation to you, is that you go on YouTube and subscribe to his Cross-Examined YouTube channel. And that is, what's so cool about that is that, a lot of times people have on their channels, and it's a lot of great content, but it's huge. It's like, okay, I got to make a 90-minute commitment. Frank has this way, his team, they chop it up. So it's like maybe 3, 4, 5-minute clips. And so you can hear these, it's the question and then a 3-minute answer, which once again is not the easiest thing to do, and he does it so well. So, and I'll tell you this is a true story. I listen to Frank probably 3 or 4 nights a week, where I will, when the kids go to sleep and then my wife goes to sleep, I'll pop in my headphones, grab my iPad, and I'll just go on his YouTube channel and just, because every day he's posting content. So I'm listening every night, or at least most nights, I'm listening to that. So sometimes, listen, I'm listening and I get tired. I fall asleep. Frank's still preaching to me, even while I'm asleep. So anyway, listen, he is a blessing to the church. He's been a blessing in my life, and I believe he's going to be a blessing to each of us today at Calvary. So would you give a warm Calvary welcome to Dr. Frank Turek?
Thanks, brother. I want to go back to September 29th, 2006. That's when Petty Officer Michael Mansour, United States Navy SEAL, is standing on a roof in Ramadi, Iraq. He's standing in front of a doorway to that roof, and he has 2 Navy SEAL colleagues in the sniper-prone position lying on the roof. They've already taken AK-47 fire and a rocket-propelled grenade, but they're not exactly certain where the enemy is. Insurgents have blocked off the streets in Ramadi, and there's someone on the loudspeaker in the town mosque saying, "Kill the Americans!" As Mansour and his team are looking for the next attack, an insurgent from an unknown location throws a grenade up on the roof. It hits Mansour in the chest, and it falls to his feet. He has a split second to make a decision. He can leap through the doorway behind him and save himself, but if he does, his 2 Navy SEAL colleagues lying on the roof will surely die. Mansour yells, "Grenade!" But instead of jumping backward through the doorway, he jumps forward, chest first, onto the grenade. It detonates. 30 minutes later, 25-year-old Michael Monsoor is dead. His 2 Navy SEAL colleagues only received minor injuries because Monsoor's body muffled the blast. One of the survivors at the funeral said, "Mikey looked death in the face that day and said, 'You will not take my friends, I will go in their stead.'" I've never seen a United States president cry until March of 2008. That's when President George W. Bush called Monsoor's parents into the East Room to give them their son's Medal of Honor posthumously. The president couldn't even get through the citation without breaking down. Since then, Monsoor's High School in Garden Grove, California, built a new stadium. They named it Michael Monsoor Memorial Stadium. The trident, the golden trident that the SEALs wear, dominates the 50-yard line. Just 5 months ago, January this year, Coronado, California, just outside of San Diego, the United States Navy commissioned the USS Michael Monsoor, the newest guided missile destroyer in the fleet. This is Monsoor's mother, Sally, being escorted onto the ship named in honor of her son. Now, why did they do that? Because Michael Monsoor literally sacrificed himself to save his friends. There's no greater love than to sacrifice yourself for your friends. Michael Monsoor died for his friends. The question is, would anyone die to save you? The answer is, someone already has. His name is Jesus of Nazareth. But in today's culture, many people don't think the story's true. They think it's invented. Religious people wrote it down. How can you trust them? They're going to embellish it. It's got miracles in it. We don't believe in miracles. I've never seen a miracle today. Why would we believe in miracles? A resurrection's a miracle. How can you believe that this is really true? Well, I actually think it's quite easy to show that it's true. You only need to answer 4 questions. In other words, if you investigate these 4 questions, I think you'll realize that the answer to these 4 questions is yes. And if the answer to these 4 questions is yes, then Christianity's true. What are the 4 questions? Here are the 4 questions. Now that is some pretty groovin' music, isn't it? Yeah. That is actually from our TV show. Pastor Bob may have mentioned that. It's on every Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. on DirecTV channel 378. If you don't have DirecTV, it's on Roku. Anyone here have Roku? R-O-K-U. NRB TV on Roku. If you don't have DirecTV and you don't have Roku, it's on this new technology sweeping Miami right now. It's called the Internet. Have you guys heard of this? Yeah, actually, you can watch the show streaming live on our website right there in the corner, crossexamine.org. We're also on radio, as Pastor Bob said. It's a number of stations around the country. If it's not here in the Miami area, you can listen to it on our app, 2 words in the App Store, Cross-Examine. It's also on iTunes. And what we do is we present evidence for Christianity, and we cross-examine ideas against it. Now, why are these the 4 questions? Truth, God, miracles, and the New Testament. And by the way, this is going to serve as our outline here this morning and tonight. In fact, this morning we're just going to cover point 1, does truth exist? Tonight we'll talk about points 2, 3, and 4 and take your questions. The first, actually Bob said we're going to do Q&A tonight. That's not actually accurate. What we're going to do is all Q, no A, okay? So everyone gets to ask a question, takes all the pressure off me. All right, now we'll do Q&A tonight too. But why are these the 4 questions? Truth, God, miracles, and the New Testament. Well, first question, does truth exist? Why is that important? Well, you hear people today saying things like, there is no truth, you got your truth, I got my truth, it's true for you but not for me, all truth is relative, right? You've heard all these claims, right? Well, if there is no truth, then obviously Christianity can't be true. Of course, if there is no truth, then atheism can't be true either, right? Of course there's truth. We're going to deal with that here this morning. Second question, does God exist? Christianity can't be true if there's no God. Tonight, I hope to show you there really is a theistic God. What's a theistic God? That's a spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful, personal, intelligent, moral creator who created all things and sustains all things to this very moment. We'll look at 3 arguments tonight for this being. These arguments are taught in the Bible, but you don't need the Bible to know them. In fact, we're not even going to refer to the Bible tonight when we deal with question 2. Third question is, are miracles possible? Obviously, miracles have to be possible for Christianity to be true. Because if there's no God or there's no miracles, there's no resurrection, Christianity's not true. And a lot of people don't believe in miracles because they've never seen one. They seem to have occurred in the New Testament or in the Old Testament, but not today. What's the deal with that? How can we believe in them? Well, I hope to show you tonight that not only are miracles possible, but the greatest miracle in the Bible has already occurred, and even atheists are admitting the evidence for this miracle. We'll see that tonight. Then the key question, the New Testament true. The New Testament doesn't have a prayer if there's no truth, no God, or no miracles, but if truth exists, if God exists, if miracles are possible, then we can see if the evidence from the New Testament documents, if those documents are reliable enough to show us that Jesus literally rose from the dead. Because if he rose from the dead, game over, Christianity's true. Of course, if he didn't rise from the dead, game over, it's false. You might as well sleep in on Sunday and do what you want the rest of the week. Because if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, Christianity's false. Paul even talks about this in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15. Now, some of you are looking at that, wait a minute, Frank, what about the Old Testament? Do you believe the Old Testament's true? Well, look, if the New Testament's reliable, you get the Old Testament thrown in. Why? Who's in the New Testament that can authenticate the Old Testament? Jesus, yes. If you're ever in Sunday school, you don't know the answer, just say Jesus, you'll probably be right. It's Jesus, Pastor. That's right. Yes, if Jesus really is God, as the New Testament documents claim he is, now that's a big if, but if he really is God, whatever God teaches is true. Jesus taught the entire Old Testament as the Word of God, so if the New Testament's just reliable, you get the Old Testament thrown in. Now, we can't cover all the material here this morning or even tonight, so if you want to go further, you can text the word evidence to 44222, and what we'll do is we're going to send you this PowerPoint presentation in a PDF format. We'll also send you the first chapter of the Stealing from God book. We'll send you a bunch of other stuff. We're not going to give your email address to anyone else, and then you can look at this at your leisure. So text that word evidence to 44222. We do have the books available on the book table as well as a 12-point DVD set. And by the way, all the proceeds from the sale of the books and the DVDs will go to feed needy children. Mine. Okay? Just so you know, I've got 3 sons, so I need some help. Actually, I was in the Navy for 8 years, which, by the way, stands for Never Again Volunteer Yourself. But my sons were smarter than me. They went into the Air Force. At least the oldest 2 did. Yep, the oldest son is an intelligence officer in the Air Force, so he's reading your email right now. And by the way, you ought not be emailing in church. The second son is a KC-10 pilot. You guys know what a KC-10 is? KC-10 is a big plane that refuels other planes in flight. So you've seen these planes flying along. They got the boom coming out the back, and then these other planes come up and get gas from them as they're flying. So we say about our middle son, Spencer, the KC-10 pilot, we say every day Spencer flies up to 30,000 feet. He sits around and he passes gas. And he gets paid for it. This is every man's dream. If I got paid to pass gas, I'd be a multi-millionaire already. The third son is not in the military, but he is out of the house. So my wife and I are now empty nesters. Do we have any empty nesters in here? Yeah, it actually took us a while to get used to that. About 10 minutes. That's how long it took to change the locks. Well, we love our kids. They're just messy. Anyway, all that stuff's available on the book table. Now, you might say, well, Frank, why even do this? Why not just have faith? Well, because that's a misunderstanding of what faith is. We'll get into that in a minute. But actually, the reason you should show Christianity is true is for two reasons. Number one, reason demands it. I mean, why would you believe something that isn't true? And secondly, the Bible commands it. If the Bible is true, it's actually telling us that we ought to get evidence. For example, Peter said this, always be ready to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect. Now, the gentleness and respect thing is hard for me because I'm originally from New Jersey, all right? But you're supposed to, are you from New Jersey? Forget about it. Unbelievable. What exit? Anyway. So you're supposed to give an answer. You're supposed to have reasons for what you believe. And so I'd like to give you some reasons. And I want to start right here at point 1. Does truth exist? You guys ready to go? Pastor Bob gets a better response. Bob, get up here. Finish this off, man. Hey, come on. You ready? All right. Now, whenever you start talking about truth, you always have to start with Jack Nicholson. Right? Because Tom Cruise had him on the witness stand and he said to him, Colonel, I want the truth. And Nicholson said, if he said it that way, the movie would have gone nowhere. Calvary, you can't handle the truth. Come on. We need a shot of testosterone in here. How did he say it? Here's how he said it.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
All right, let's try that again. I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Well, that's a little better. What do you think? Is it a little better than the 10? Just shaky. He's not siding with either of the services here. All right, now, a lot of people can't handle the truth. They're saying, you got your truth, I got my truth, there is no truth, all truth is relative. Well, what we're going to talk about in the next few minutes, I think is the most important thinking skill I've ever learned. And I didn't learn it until I was 33 years old. I already had a master's degree and I didn't know this, to show you what a dimwit I was. And this thinking skill is so important that once you get your mind around it, half of what you need to know in order to defend the Christian faith, you'll already know. And it's so simple. I don't know why I didn't recognize it before. And the easiest way of showing you this thinking skill is to give you an illustration of using it. Here it is. Suppose someone were to come up to you and say something like, there is no truth. You should ask that person a question. What should the question be? Is that true? Yeah, if somebody says there's no truth, you want to say, hey, is that true? Is it true that there's no truth? Because if it's true that there's no truth, the claim there is no truth can't be true, but it claims to be true. Did I say that right? Can everyone see that this is a self-defeating statement? A self-defeating statement doesn't meet its own standard. A self-defeating statement is like saying I can't speak a word in English. If I were to say that, what would you say? Yeah, you just used English to say it. It would be like saying my brother is an only child. Or my parents had no kids that lived. Or everything I say is a lie. Some of you will get that tomorrow. All right? Or all generalizations are false. Some of you will never get that one, all right? These are known as self-defeating statements, and once you get good at recognizing self-defeating statements, you'll be able to avoid error, because that's half the battle. Look, you start believing and living according to false beliefs, you're going to run into reality and hurt yourself and hurt other people. So it's highly important that you're able to identify false statements and stay away from them when it comes to living them out. So here's the thinking skill, by the way. What you do is you turn the claim on itself. Turn the claim on itself. So somebody says there's no truth, you turn the claim on itself and you say, is that true? All right? So let's do this a few more times. How about if somebody says, all truth is relative? You turn the claim on itself, what do you say? Is that a relative truth? No, it's an absolute truth. It's not relative at all. How about if somebody says there are no absolutes? Turn the claim on itself. Say, is that an absolute truth? Or you could say, are you absolutely sure? Right? Because they're using an absolute truth to say there are no absolute truths. You with me on this? How about if somebody says you can't know anything? How do you know that? How do you know that you can't know? How about if somebody says it's true for you, but not for me? You hear this all the time. Oh, Christianity may be true for you, but Buddhism's true for me. What do you say to that? This is also self-defeating. It's just a little bit more subtle. If somebody says it's true for you, but not for me, say, hey, is that true for everybody? Is true for you, but not for me true for everybody? Because if true for you, but not for me is true for everybody, then true for you, but not for me can't be true because it's true for everybody. Did I say that right? I know that can give you intellectual constipation if you think about it long enough. But that's because it's self-defeating. It's like saying I can't speak a word in English. Actually, there's a more fun way of dealing with this one. If somebody says it's true for you but not for me, say, sure, go try that with your bank teller. Yeah, go to your bank teller and say, look, I'd like $100,000 out of my account. The bank teller says, I'm sorry, you only have $6.12 in your account. It's easy to get the money. You simply say, ha, that's true for you but not for me. Give me the $100,000. You going to get the money? No, if it's true there was only $6.12 in your account, that's true for all people at all times in all places when referring to you at that time. It's just true. Or let's say you're going a little fast down Highway 77 here, or 75 here. You're going 100 miles an hour. Cop sees you, pulls you over, knocks on your window. You put the window down. He says, you were going 100. Easy to get out of a ticket. You simply go, ha, that's true for you but not for me. And you speed away. Can't give you a ticket if it's not true for you. No, if it's true you were going 100, that's just true. No matter what you think about it, it's true. By the way, I go to a lot of churches. I normally ask people, do you think Christianity is true? And most people will say yes, and then I'll say, why? Do you know what answer I get more than any other? Because I have faith. Is that a good answer? Does your faith change whether or not Christianity is true? Does it change whether or not God exists or Jesus rose from the dead? No. Your faith doesn't change a thing about those things. I mean, do you have to believe something to make it true? Do you have to believe in gravity to stay on the ground? Do people who don't believe in gravity float away? Hey, look, there's another one. Hey, if you believe, you'll come back. No, that's not the way it works. You say, well, why is the Bible always talking about faith then? Because there's two kinds of faith. This is really important to get your mind around this. There's belief that, and then there's belief in. Belief that is getting evidence that God exists, that Jesus rose from the dead, that the New Testament documents are telling us the truth. But all the belief that in the world won't get your moral transgressions forgiven. For that, you got to go from belief that to belief in. See, there's a difference. Belief that is just of the head. Belief in is not only of the head, but of the heart. You're trusting in. In fact, James, the half-brother of Jesus, who wrote that little book in the New Testament called the 10 a.m. was smarter on this one, Bob. I'm telling you. Most of them got it. Who wrote that little book in the New Testament called? Thank you. It wasn't a trick question. He said, even the demons believe that God exists, but they tremble. Do you know that if demons exist, and they do you know that they know there's a God better than we do? But they don't trust in him, right? They don't want to trust in him. Why? Because it's not just a head issue, it's a heart issue. They don't want it to be true. They know that it is, but they don't want it to be true. We know there's a difference between belief that and belief in when it comes to relationships. When I first met my wife 34 years ago, I got evidence that she would be a good wife, but all the evidence in the world didn't make her my wife. I had to take a step from belief that to belief in. And I did, and I asked her to marry me. And in a momentary lapse of judgment, she said yes. See, that's the difference between belief that and belief in. Belief that is of the head. Belief in is not only of the head, but of the heart. And you can know that God exists and not trust in him because you don't want to trust in him. You want to do your own thing. In fact, everybody, as Paul says in Romans chapter 1, at some point knows that there's a creator God. But we suppress the truth to go our own way, don't we? So there's a difference between belief that and belief in. Most of the time when the Bible's talking about faith, it's talking about the second kind. Trust in. In fact, that's the word we ought to start using, trust, instead of faith. Why? Because today people think faith means you have no evidence. It's like wishful thinking. No. What it really means is trust. Yesterday when I flew down here, I had evidence that the pilots were competent. But it wasn't until I got in the plane that I trusted in them to get me here, right? There's a difference between belief that and belief in. And so when the Bible's talking about faith, most of the time it's talking about the second kind. But don't buy into this idea that faith is just all about wishful thinking. No. You know what the real definition is? Faith is trusting in what you have good evidence to believe. Faith is trusting in what you have good evidence to believe. How about this? You hear this statement quite a bit too. There's no truth in anything but science. You've probably heard that. What's the problem with that claim? Yeah, turn the claim on itself. Does that statement, that All truth comes from science. Is that a scientific statement? No, that's a philosophical claim. You can't prove that by science. In fact, in the book Stealing from God, we have an entire chapter on this issue. The chapter on science is called Science Doesn't Say Anything, Scientists Do. Science doesn't say a word. Did you know that? All data needs to be gathered. All data needs to be interpreted. Who does that? Scientists do. And sometimes scientists use their atheistic philosophy to rule intelligence out before they even look at the evidence. Because they've already said God doesn't exist, so it doesn't matter how much the evidence is pointing to God. They're always going to say, nope, can't be God. But it's completely self-defeating to say all truth comes from science, because you couldn't even do science without philosophy. Just like you couldn't read the newspaper or read the Bible without philosophy. Philosophy undergirds everything we do. How about this? You hear this quite a bit too. You should doubt everything. This is a skeptical claim. What's the problem with that claim? Yeah, if somebody says you should doubt everything, you say, should I doubt that? You see, why are skeptics skeptical of everything but skepticism? You ever notice that? They don't doubt that. They think that's true. By the way, how many people in here sometimes doubt, whether you're a Christian or not, how many people sometimes doubt that what you believe is true? Look, if you don't have your hand up right now, you're probably not thinking much, right? Okay? Look, I wrote books on this stuff, and sometimes I wake up in the morning and go, I don't even know if this is true. You ever do that? But when I start thinking about my doubts, I realize my doubts are emotional. They're not intellectual. In other words, the evidence for Christianity is very good. What's changing is me. Good day, everything's fine. Bad day, don't know. Good day, fine. Bad day, don't know. Good day, fine. Bad day, don't know. What's changing, me or the evidence? Evidence isn't changing at all. In fact, sometimes people will email me and say, you know, Frank, I lost my faith. I don't mean to be unkind, but sometimes I want to respond, so? Because your psychological state changed, does that mean God no longer exists? How does that follow? You changed your psychology and God has popped out of existence? How does that follow? It doesn't follow at all. Your psychology does not tell you whether or not Christianity is true. The evidence does. And when you look at the evidence, I think you'll realize, as we'll get into tonight in much more detail, that Jesus really did rise from the dead and Christianity is true. If that's the case, you can doubt all you want. It's not going to change a thing. Because if it's true, regardless of what you're thinking about. So, what I have to start doing, because I realize most of my doubts are emotional, they're not intellectual, I need to start doubting my doubts. Because if I start doubting my doubts, then I'm back to knowing something for sure. Have you guys thought about doubting your doubts? I doubt it. How about this one? This is probably the granddaddy in our culture. You ought not judge. Somebody says that, you turn the claim on itself, what do you say to the person? Isn't that a judgment? Or, why are you judging me for judging? You ever notice that? That's a judgment to say you ought not judge. Wait a minute, Frank, time out, you're a Christian. Didn't Jesus say don't judge? No. That's good, someone else said that. That's right. That kid's bright over there. No, he didn't stop there. See, here's the problem. I know it's going to sound funny, but there are no verses in the Bible. There are no verses in the Bible. The verses were put in there 500 years ago to help us navigate the text. What's the problem? It makes us think that we can yank one little verse out and make it say whatever we want. You have to look at it in context. What did Jesus say about judging in Matthew chapter 7? He said, judge not. He didn't stop there. What did he say after that? Lest you be judged. By the same standard you judge others, you be judged by that standard. So before you try and take the speck out of your brother's eye, you hypocrite, take the log out of your own eye first, then you'll be better able to help your brother. Is Jesus telling us not to judge here? No, he's telling us to take the speck out of our brother's eye. That involves making a judgment. He's simply saying, get that problem out of your life first so you can better help your brother. So this is not a command not to judge. It's actually a command on how to judge. Don't judge hypocritically. In fact, elsewhere in John 7:24, Jesus says, stop judging by mere appearances and make a right judgment. Do you know that everybody makes judgments? You make judgments. You made 100 judgments just getting over here this morning. In fact, you'd be dead if you didn't make judgments. You got to make judgments every day between right and wrong, good and evil, safe choices from dangerous choices. Everybody makes judgments. Atheists make judgments. There's no God. That's a judgment. Jesus didn't rise from the dead. That's a judgment. There are no objective moral values. That's a judgment. These are all judgments. The question isn't whether or not you can make judgments. The question is, are your judgments true? Now, Jesus, however, did save a very stern rebuke for people who were judgmental. And who were the judgmental ones in his day? Who were they? Pharisees. Who were the Pharisees? What was their job? What did they do? They were the religious and political leaders of Israel. Remember, some of them were on the Sanhedrin. Who was the Sanhedrin? The Jewish ruling council that helped run Israel. They were the politicians in addition to being the religious leaders. Are you telling me Jesus got involved in politics? Yes! And he wasn't so nice doing it. In fact, if you think Jesus was a sweet guy who's never said a bad word about anyone, you have not read John chapter 2, John chapter 8, or Matthew chapter 23. What does Jesus do in John chapter 2? He goes into the temple with a whip and he jacks people up. Sweet and gentle Jesus? Yes! And then to these Pharisees in John chapter 8, he's having a bit of an argument with them, and he gets to the point in the conversation where he says, your father is the devil. Jesus, you can't say that. That's not very Christ-like. Excuse me, I am Christ. Can you imagine having a conversation with somebody and saying, your father is the devil? Jesus said that. And then in Matthew 23, to these same people, what does he say? Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you brood of vipers, you snakes. You strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. Oh, you look great on the outside. You're whitewashed tombs, but on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones. You go a mile to make a convert, and then once you make him a convert, you make him twice as much a son of hell as you are. How will you avoid being condemned to hell? What? Sweet and gentle? Jesus said this? Yes, Jesus was not Barney. Can't we all get along, boys and girls? No! I came to bring a sword. It's going to divide mother and daughter, father and son. Jesus was tough. In fact, why was he killed? Number one, he claimed to be God. Number two, he spoke truth to power. They didn't like that. He was not wimpified like our culture tries and makes him out to be. Just read the text. I've noticed one other thing about judging. You ever notice that when you compliment somebody, which is a judgment, nobody gets upset? You know, if you say to your best friend, you know, I really love you. You're such a wonderful person. I wish I could be like you. You think your friend's going to say, who do you think you are? Are you judging me? You think you're worse than me? No, your friend's never going to say that, right? See, I've noticed that people don't have a problem with judging. They just have a problem with judgments they don't like. And if you tell somebody something that's true and they get upset with you, you just help convict them. As Augustine said, we love the truth when it enlightens us. We hate the truth when it convicts us. For you military people in here, you always get more flack when you're over the target. If you tell somebody something that's true and they're shooting back at you, you're over the target. They don't want their evil deeds exposed, and you're exposing them. And everyone in this room, maybe this morning, got mad at somebody for telling you the truth, didn't you? And you knew it was true. And what you do, you double down. Don't look at him. You double down. You double down on your anger because you didn't want to deal with it. We all do that, don't we? In fact, on a college campus, I go to a lot of college campuses, and I don't have enough faith to be in atheist presentations, and we set up microphones. We'll do it tonight as well. But when atheists come, sometimes I'll ask atheists a question if they exhibit any hostility during the Q&A, and here's the question I normally ask them. If Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? I've had atheists stand at that microphone in front of hundreds of people and say, no! No, I thought you claimed to be reasonable. Why wouldn't you believe it if it were true? Because they don't want it to be true. They don't want there to be a God. Why? Because they want to be God. They want to be God of their own lives. You could give them all the truth in the world, and they're just going to suppress it. They're not on a truth quest. They're on a happiness quest. And they're just going to believe whatever they think is going to make them happy. So much for God if God's not going to make me happy. That's why you need to ask the question. By the way, you ever having a conversation with somebody? You're a Christian, the other person's not. They throw an objection at you about Christianity. You begin to answer it, and bam, they're on to the next objection. You begin to answer that, bam, they're on to the next objection. This is what's going on here. They don't want it to be true. Because they want to do their own thing. Always ask the question, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? There's other questions like this in our app, by the way. In fact, I want to do a real quick informal survey here. This is just for the Christians. How many people in here, if you're a Christian, how many people in here have a friend or a relative you know who's not a Christian whom you'd like to be a Christian? Everybody got somebody? Okay. Think about this person for just a second. Here's my question about the person you're thinking of right now. Is the person you're thinking of right now on a relentless pursuit of truth? They want to know if Christianity is true. Or are they apathetic or maybe even hostile to Christianity? How many people say the person I'm thinking of is on a relentless pursuit of truth? Crickets. How many people say the person I'm thinking of is apathetic or hostile? Yeah, look around the room. It's the same everywhere I go. People don't want it to be true. Now, you continue to give evidence. Why? Because you're planting seeds, and people who are believers need to be reassured. But always ask the question, if it were true, would you become a Christian? Because I've noticed that people really don't want it to be true. They want to do their own thing. Maybe they don't really realize the beauty of Christianity, which we'll talk more about tonight. But what I want to point out here, can everybody see that this statement, this is the bottom line to this section, can everyone see that this statement shoots itself? Can everyone see that? And all the other statements we went through, you ought not judge, you can't know anything, all truth is relative, all truth comes from science, these all shoot themselves. They can't be true. So if they can't be true, what is true? Well, what is true is there is truth out there and you can know it. And when we come back tonight, we're going to look at the next question, does God exist? But as the band comes right now, I want to tell you what we're going to do a little bit tonight. By the way, whether or not you can come tonight, again, text that word evidence to 44222. Evidence to 44222. You'll get this entire PowerPoint presentation in a PDF format. And we'll send you the first chapter of Stealing from God. And by the way, Christians, stealing from God is not about tithing, okay? The subtitle is Why Atheists Need God to Make Their Case. I've noticed that when atheists are trying to say there is no God, they're actually stealing aspects of reality from God in order to say he doesn't exist. In other words, these things wouldn't exist unless God existed. So they're using them to say he doesn't exist when the very arguments they're using would only be true if God existed. In effect, they have to sit in God's lap to slap his face. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to look at, we'll briefly talk about what we did this morning, does truth exist? And we'll look at the evidence for God, miracles, New Testament, and we'll take your questions. All right? And we're going to see that, yeah, Michael Monsoor died for his friends, but we're also going to see that Jesus of Nazareth died for you. But he didn't just die, he also walked out of the tomb to prove that he was God, and that by trusting in him, you not only can be forgiven for what you've done, but you can be given his righteousness. Think about that. That's amazing when you think about it. You're not only forgiven, but you're given the righteousness he lived out. What could be better than that? Who wouldn't want that? Pastor Bob's going to give you an opportunity to make a decision if you haven't done so already. Pastor Bob, ladies and gentlemen.
Frank, thank you so much. That was so good, right? So good. So encouraging, informative, and tonight we're going to continue. So this isn't over. This is like we're pressing the pause button so that you can go eat some lunch and then come back. And so at 6 p.m. tonight, I want to encourage you to come back, and we're going to delve into this even deeper. You're going to be encouraged. You're going to be stretched. You're going to grow as a result of this. And so let's pray together. And Lord, we want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing in us and through us. And we thank you for Frank, for this presentation, for this message, that it can not only encourage us, but that it can strengthen us as we seek to share the hope that's in us with our friends and family, with classmates and coworkers, and that we might share with them the reason for the hope that's in us. And so God, use us in the people that we encounter, the people that we love, that we know, to draw them closer to you as you do the work. We pray it in Jesus' name, and everybody said, Amen.
Thanks for watching this week's message. Make sure to click the subscribe button below to stay up to date with all the things happening here at Calvary. God bless you.